time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Thank you, Chad Erickson, and good to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show. Another busy day. Kurt Helin drops by a little later on, talk about the NBA preseason. But Karl Anthony Towns lighting it up for the Knicks on Wednesday night in his debut at Madison Square Garden. Ryan Ballengee drops by from Golf News Next to get his thoughts on this Live PGA Tour Showdown that's going to take place in December in Las Vegas, right down the street from where we are here, doing the show every day. So we will get his thoughts on, and also just where is this Live PGA Tour get together, this merger? Is it ever going to happen? We'll get his thoughts on that as well. Big news from the world of tennis. Rafa Nadal announcing his retirement. We'll talk about that. Odds and ends with the WNBA Finals beginning on Thursday night. Look who's back. It's Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen. Look at him. Looks nice and refreshed as he rejoins us after a couple of days away. I'd like to say I missed you, but here's the reality of it. The last few days went by so fast, and there was so much going on. I mean, it was crazy. And Sam actually texted me the morning of the news with Robert Saleh, because that's how I actually found out. He texted me, and he goes, "Wow, man, what a terrible day to be off." I'm like, "What's he talking about?" He goes, "You didn't see Robert Saleh got fired?" I'm like, "No." And then I looked, and I'm like, "Oh, my God, we're going to have to redo the opening segment of the show." Just awful. It's just awful. But we got to talk some baseball here to open the program today. And how about those New York Mets? The Cinderella story of the baseball season. The New York Mets, baby. Going to the NLCS. Another one bites the dust. More heartache for fans in Philadelphia as the Phillies succumb to the power of OMG. And the Mets are on to the NLCS, where they'll face either the Padres or the Dodgers. We'll get to that series in a second. But first, a thought on the Mets, Sam.
Yeah, so the Mets, great for them. Obviously, Lindor with that insane hit. Huge for him personally, because obviously the story, if they weren't able to get past the Phillies, would be, all right, we got to figure something out here in New York. We paid Francisco Lindor all this money. We've done basically nothing since doing that. Besides building the most expensive roster in baseball history, they would have had to reevaluate. So in terms of the story arc of the Mets as a franchise, a huge single play. And in terms of the career of Francisco Lindor, especially in that New York media market, a huge weight off his shoulders with one swing of the bat. Incredibly clutch. And it was amazing to watch, Jason. Truly emotional here in the greater New York area. What we got to talk about, though, is these Philadelphia Phillies. Oh, my goodness. Has a team in the division series ever looked more lifeless? Trey Turner, $300 million contract, nothing in the playoffs. Bryce Harper, another letdown season in the playoffs. Two more times he comes up with a chance to tie or take the lead in a game that has the season on the line, and he doesn't do it. Add two more tallies to that count. It just, I can't comprehend how this Phillies team let down their fan base, their city, their front office, the way that they have. This is a colossal meltdown in terms of the Philadelphia Phillies, a team that had the second or favorite to win the Cy Young for the vast majority of the baseball season, a team that we regarded as having the best pitching staff in baseball. I was told by Phillies fans that Ranger Suarez was a serviceable ace. What? My gosh. The Philadelphia Phillies might have to blow it all up this offseason.
Well. Obviously, a lot of disappointment there. The Mets, and I'll go back to something David Ardsma talked about with us yesterday on the show. Momentum matters, and we are seeing it in these playoffs. Momentum matters. I mean, the Royals didn't have a ton of it going into the postseason. The Yankees didn't have a ton of it going into the postseason, so we'll put that aside. But Detroit had momentum going into the postseason. We've seen what they've done. One win away from the ALCS. The Mets, tons of momentum. The two teams that were playing the best baseball, basically, going into the postseason. Oh, it just so happens one's a win away from going to the ALCS. The other is in the NLCS. Cast that aside for a second, because we only got a couple minutes left in the segment. Talk about the Dodgers and Padres, which goes back to a Game 5. Dodgers did what they had to do. They got it back to L.A. on their home field where they will be able to decide their own fate at Dodger Stadium. Who do you like for that Friday night game, Sam?
I'm going back to what David Ardsma said to you yesterday on the show, and it's that momentum matters. Listen, we know that the Padres had all the momentum coming into this series. Game 4 changed that. The Dodgers go on the road and frankly annihilate the Padres. Exactly. Smacked them around. And you beat up their ace, the guy who they went out and got this offseason or right before the season started or early in the season, whatever it was. You beat him up. So the momentum is in the Dodgers' favor right now. They're going back home. Give me LA.
And I'll say this too. Mookie's starting to swing the bat again. And he was really struggling coming down the stretch run. And Mookie's starting to swing a hot bat. You even saw that in the loss in Game 3 with the home run that he had. And he could have had another one earlier in the series that Profar robbed. So Mookie's starting to heat up too, which means look out.
Well, what I'll say is this, Jason. What he's looking like to me is that Mookie Betts that we saw win the World Series with Boston. That game changer. The guy, the Mookie Betts that quite literally got himself moved to L.A. The Mookie Betts that earned the right to demand that trade. That... If that's what the Dodgers have, along with Shohei Ohtani, along with the rest of that lineup... If Mookie's really figuring it out the way that we know that he can in the postseason, the rest of Major League Baseball is in a lot of trouble.
Real quick, Tigers, do they wrap it up against the Orioles? I mean, Guardians.
I wish it was the Orioles, because maybe the Orioles would have scored a run in the last 20 innings. The Guardians haven't. Give me the Tigers.
Yankees with Garrett Cole on the mound. If they don't wrap it up in Game 4, I would be very worried about the Yankees in Game 5 because Aaron Judge still can't hit.
Yeah, at all. And you got to rely on Giancarlo.
Hey, man, the guy hits in the postseason, though. Giancarlo, say what you want, man. His postseason production is prolific at this point. We'll see how it all plays out. We'll have a recap on Friday. Don't go anywhere. Contender Pretenders next. All right, let's go to segment 2 on the show. On the heels of baseball, we move to the NFL. It's week 6 in the NFL. Contender, pretender, Sam Yarnell. Hey, man, you miss a few days, you miss some stuff. I mean, there's a lot going on. What are you gonna do? That's the way it rolls. It's okay. We had some very qualified, capable people in your stead over the last few days, but none are the prince of picks. So we have contender, pretender, Sam Yarnell. 3 contenders, 3 pretenders. Go.
All right, Jason, I know the people have been waiting, so I'll start by giving them the one that they're less interested in. My contenders for week 6 in the NFL. Obviously, we'll start at the top. It's the Baltimore Ravens. Listen, this team didn't know what they were doing through the first 3 weeks of the football season. I think we can all comfortably say that. Then something clicked, and since week 4, they've been a juggernaut. I mean, we're talking this team is playing football in a way like the defenses they're playing against have never seen before. I would not be surprised if we see the triple option. I've said this on the show before. as a staple of their offense by the end of the season. This is a service academy football team that's doing what the service academies are doing back in college football. They're running through the competition right now. The Baltimore Ravens are my number one contender. My number two contender, the one that may be the most shocking to some and maybe the most pleasing to those of us watching on Masson, the Washington Commanders. They're a contender. They're right there. And I know I just picked two teams going head to head this weekend, so I can't really lose here. But the thing is, I think whichever team does lose stays on this list. This is going to be an incredibly close game. Foreshadowing Page versus the Prince tomorrow here on SportsWrap. But the Commanders are riding Jaden Daniels, who is making the players around him better, and they're having copious amounts of success. The Washington Commanders are contenders this season. My last contender, the Minnesota Vikings. Yep, they're still there. Why? Sam Darnold's still playing decent football. And guess what? Even when he isn't, like he wasn't over in London against the Jets, they still find ways to win. I've come on the show all season long talking about how good that Brian Flores defense is. What did they do against a future Hall of Fame quarterback? Forced him to throw 3 interceptions for the first time in years. That defense is legit. We know that offense is more than capable. The Minnesota Vikings are my third and final contender. Now to the pretenders, Jason. Jets, 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 Jets. Pretender number 1, pretender number 2, and also pretender number 3. There's no pretender in the NFL more akin to the word right now than the New York Jets. A team truly in peril. Full turmoil has set in Florham Park, New Jersey. This is a team right now that has the same record as the Miami Dolphins, who haven't had their starting quarterback since week 2. This is a team right now that has the same record as the Indianapolis Colts, an anemic offense that also has an injured quarterback. This is a team with the same record as the Chargers and the Raiders, and I could go on and on and on, and everyone picked them to win the AFC East before the season. And here we are, 5 weeks into the season. Their head coach is gone because the quarterback that they brought in wanted him out and went on a YouTube show the next day and tried to justify himself not. I cannot do it with the New York Jets anymore. Bet them to miss the playoffs at -110 right now. The New York Jets are your biggest NFL pretender.
Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen. All right, contender pretender week 6 in the NFL. Sorry, I had to get that out of my throat. I'll give you 3 contenders right now. I'll give you the Kansas City Chiefs, contenders to win it all. And why wouldn't you right now? And I talked about this with Matt Verderam on Tuesday's show. Who's beating them? If they will be favored against anybody, any place, anytime right now, the way they are playing. Travis Kelce has started to show up. Patrick Mahomes looked like the Patrick Mahomes we all expected to see. Juju Smith-Schuster's making plays. Kareem Hunt is a blast from the past. And all of a sudden you turn around and the Kansas City Chiefs are 5-0. Who's going to beat them? I mean, I'd be surprised. I'd be shocked, frankly, if they went 17-0. But at the same time, they're going to be favored the rest of the way against everybody they're playing. Kansas City, contenders to win it all. The Falcons are contenders to win the NFC South. I mean, quite frankly, how couldn't they be? You just watched them beat Tampa Bay. They have those flashes of brilliance offensively. As long as they can keep Kirk Cousins healthy, you're starting to see Kyle Pitts get involved in the offense. Now, some people are suggesting that could be because they want to trade him and try and get more value for him, so they're using him more. Maybe. I tend to be less of a cynic in this regard and just say that Kirk Cousins and Kyle Pitts are learning how to play together. It's 5 weeks into the season. They're 3-2, still very much in the thick of things in the NFC South. I think they are contenders to win that NFC South. My final contender, Sam, the New York Jets. And why wouldn't you make them a contender? Here's the reality. You can talk about coaches being fired. Aaron Rodgers is banged up. And still, they're 1 game out of first, and they still haven't played the Bills yet. They've won their only matchups within the division so far. They haven't had any problems there. They are still the same group of players that started the season. Why wouldn't you take the Jets? Go look at their schedule throughout the rest of the way. They've got the Bills coming up, fine. The Jets and Steelers game the week after is going to be a rock fight. It'll be 14-13, 17-14. Winnable game. At the Patriots, winnable. Home for the Texans. No Nico Collins. I think they're going to be all over C.J. Stroud. That's a winnable game. At the Cardinals, winnable. I mean, you go and run down their schedule for the next 6-7 games. The Jets are still very much in the thick of things. They are still a contender to win the AFC East. And why wouldn't they be? They're one game out of the division. Take the Jets as a contender to still win the AFC East, which is what I predicted they would do before the season started. Pretenders. Seahawks to win anything come the postseason. You can't lose games at homes to the New York Giants and have me taking you seriously. The Raiders are a pretender to ever win anything again. As a matter of fact, the Oakland A's have a better chance as the Oakland A's to win a World Series than the Raiders do to win anything ever again. And they don't even exist anymore. The Steelers to be anything more than a wild card team with this caveat: if Justin Fields is the quarterback. You can't win with him as quarterback. They cannot get enough offensive production from him to win as quarterback. Steelers are pretenders unless they get Russell Wilson back on the field, which they obviously will soon enough. That is Contender Pretender. We're back with Kurt Helin next. All right, coming up in 10 minutes, Ryan Ballengee, Golf News Next. Get his thoughts on the Live Golf PGA Tour Showdown coming to Las Vegas in December, but also want to get his thoughts on where we are in this PGA Tour Live merger process. What is holding it up at this point? Get his thoughts on that. Something to consider. We still got some NFL notes to get to on the quarterback front. Also, odds and ends. But Kurt Helin stops by the show first to talk to us about some NBA. How about my man, Karl Anthony Towns? Woo! Now he's my man. After the last time I think we talked, I was saying I don't think he fits the Knicks. I still don't know if he fits the Knicks. But how about it at the Garden? Rocking for
his debut.
Yeah.
Again, I'll tell you what I said before to you. I've written a bunch of times. Their offense is going to be fantastic, and I genuinely think they're going to push for the number 1 seed in the East. Like, Tibbs will run these guys into the ground, like the starters he's got, because there's not a lot of depth. But Towns is shooting, and I think we forget he can do what Hartenstein did, passing out of the post and being a facilitator in the offense in the high post that way. And he can just, on a spaced out floor, and he did it against Charlotte. He can beat a big off the dribble. If you don't put a mobile defender on him, he'll just take him. So, like, the offense just opens up. And, honestly, here's the thing. The questions we've got about them are like playoff questions, even second round playoff, third round, finals type of playoff questions. If those are the questions you have to answer, that's a good place to start the season, man.
Yeah, it is. End of the game, who's taking the final shot for that team, though?
Brunson.
Does Karl Anthony Towns know that? Does Karl Anthony Towns know that?
I think so, but I think that they're willing to play off him. Brunson's not going to be Kobe in that situation where he's going to look at the open guy and go, yeah, I'm good. No, I'm going to take. Look, if the defense comes to him and Towns is open, if Bridges is open, or they run a play for the secondary creator in Bridges, he'll be good with that. But Brunson's the guy you're going to have to stop. He will be he's still the head of the snake. Honestly, Jason, I think he's a sneaky good MVP bet. Because
wow.
Look, if they get the 1 seed or even a high 2 seed and they're pushing Boston, and he puts up numbers like I think he can in this offense with everything now spread out for him to drive and more room for him to operate, I think he's in the mix.
Wow. This Warriors team's going to, Steve Kerr's talked about it. Sort of they're going to be this run and gun, take 28 threes a game. I mean, they hit 28 threes, I guess, in their last game. Give me some thought on what the Warriors are going to look like here. Are we talking about a play-in team? I mean, is that the projection you have for the Warriors right now?
Yeah, first off, this is where the NBA is at, Jason. If you take 28 threes in the game, you're not shooting enough. You're simply not. Like, You're not even close. Boston shot 40, I think a little over 40 a game last year. And everybody saw their model and goes, yeah, like JJ Redick's talked about, like, we got to do that. So, yeah, they're going to be up and down. They're going to be fast tempo. They're going to play small a little bit more. They're going to count on the question really is who steps up. Is it Kuminga? Do they get, it's a contract year. Do you get that Andrew Wiggins again? You need those guys to come back and do that. But this is going to be an up-tempo team. And honestly, I've got them, the West is bunched up, and I've got them in a tier where they could finish sixth, maybe even fifth, but probably sixth and like avoid the play-in, or they could miss the postseason entirely. The Lakers are in this group. Like, I think 6 and 12 in the West is going to be separated by 5 games. It's just going to be so tight. And it's just going to come down to health and do they really come together in this system?
The annual NBA.com survey of 30 league general managers has the Celtics as an overwhelming pick to repeat as NBA champions. Does that surprise you, given how hard it is right now in this age of parity to repeat as champions?
No. And look, I'll probably pick them too. It's two things. The GM survey is really a conventional wisdom survey. You are not getting anything bold out of these guys. The predictions tend to be the conventional wisdom, but part of it is they won the championship and lapped the field. Remember, they won 64 games. They really beat up on everybody. They were the best team in the NBA last year. And then they bring back their top 7. Porzingis is out for a while, but the core is there. So they are absolutely the bar. They're the team to beat. And every other team has questions. We talked about your Knicks. We got defensive questions and playoff questions. Certainly the 76ers and health have questions. Oklahoma City is going to be a beast, but they're young. Are they ready for this moment? And we can keep going down the list, but every team has way more questions. Boston's answered their questions. So they are the default choice until proven otherwise.
Were you surprised that Wembanyama was such an overwhelming pick as far as to start a team with at 77%? Is there somebody else you would have slotted in there if not him?
Yeah, you know what surprised me? 33% didn't pick him.
23.
Why would you not have picked
23%.
him?
Got to do the math on this. It's 23%. 23.
Oh, you're right. Bad math. This is why I have a calculator. You're right, 23%. But I mean, I like Shea. I think you could make a case if you're starting a franchise.
To win the MVP.
I know a couple people picked. You can pick Jokic because he's the best player on the planet right now. But I think you're building out. I just don't. Wembanyama is going to be even if he doesn't live up to the offensive end, and he looked last night like he's going to live up to the offensive end. If he doesn't live up to the offensive end of his potential, he is still going to be the best defensive anchor of a generation, or maybe ever. He's just going to be such a force on the defensive end that you can build out from him.
Can I just say this though? And I don't, I know I wax poetic about LeBron. I watched him in that preseason game, or I've watched him in a couple preseason games, or a preseason game at Acrisure Arena, where he got to play with his son for the first time. It is still amazing to watch from a physical standpoint what this guy is able to do this deep into his career. And the fact that he was willing to do it in a preseason game, it is one of those things that makes LeBron unique. And it still blows my mind. And I will talk about it any chance I get, because it's not going to be here forever, especially now that he's getting a chance to play with his son. He's not going to be here forever. People really need to embrace it.
They do. It's been spectacular. And he is coming off the Olympics, getting to play with his son. They talked about it a lot around the Lakers at Media Day and through their opening of their season. He's playing with more, or he's brought more energy. This isn't, I'm going through this another year. Where do I go from here? There is a renewed spirit and energy around LeBron this year. And that's good for the Lakers and good for their fans, because he may be turning 40 in December. He is absolutely the bellwether for the team. He is the tone setter for that team. If he's playing with this kind of energy, the rest of those guys will follow.
Kurt Helin, Pro Basketball Talk at NBCSports.com is his jam. He is not a mathematician. Don't go sending him hate tweets. 77 plus 23 equals 100. We're coming back.
But he's getting 110% is what I was trying to say.
This Thursday edition of Sports Wrap continues. Boy, there is a lot going on. I saw the story yesterday. We didn't talk about it on the show. But this Live Golf PGA Tour, it's not officially a Live Golf PGA Tour Showdown, but it feels kind of like that. It'll be on TNT in December. It's bringing our friend Ryan Ballengee. Does a terrific job. You can catch him. He is the owner. He's a writer, host, Golf News Net, and Ryan Ballengee hangs out with us on the show today. So tell me about this 2-on-2 matchup we're going to see out here in Las Vegas in December, featuring a couple Live golfers and a couple of PGA Tour golfers.
Yeah, as you mentioned, thanks for having me on, Jason. So this is going to be called the Showdown. We've had this series going back a number of years called the Match, that was started by Phil Mickelson and Tiger Woods back when Phil was still a member of the PGA Tour. They had to have the blessing of the PGA Tour. They had to pay a fee to the PGA Tour for marketing. This is kind of outside of that series. This is outside of that approval spectrum, so to speak. And you've got Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler taking on Brooks Koepka and Bryson DeChambeau in a match at Shadow Creek, 18-hole match, all exhibition. The point really is to try to, I think, bridge the gap a little bit between the two sides. McIlroy's talked about it insofar as he has talked about it. And it is interesting to have the number 1, number 3 players in the world on one end, and then the two most recognizable and arguably most successful golfers because of Live on the other side.
Yeah, it certainly is. Where are we right now when it comes to the Live Golf? I know you. It's a quite look. You talk about it for a living, more so than any of us. Where are we right now in this Live PGA Tour union that's supposed to happen? What is holding this up at this point? Is it the players? Is it figuring out how we get our pound of flesh from the guys that bolted and got these huge contracts? Where are we?
I think it's more of what you mentioned. There's a faction of players, and I would say Tiger Woods is one of them, that have disliked Live from the beginning, don't like that it happened in the first place, have some ill will to the players who went to Live and took the money, and they want some kind of compensation when they come back.
Really? You're telling me
What
this is a
that
Tiger?
looks like-
This is a Tiger thing?
Yeah.
Wow.
What that looks like is very much the subject of debate. I mean, there's been this wide spectrum of ideas of, well, the players have to repay their signing bonus with Live back to the PGA Tour, which would never happen in 1,000 years. That doesn't happen in real life. It's not going to happen on the PGA Tour. Or maybe paying back some percentage of that money over time is almost a penalty that you would accrue over time, paying it back to the PGA Tour. That is also not going to happen. So that faction of player that wants some kind of make good to happen, that's not there. And then you've got Rory McIlroy on the other side of this saying, look, we've got to move past this. We can't hold on to this forever. Otherwise, this is never going to all come back together. So long as you're mad about what the Live guys did, they are going to be stiff-armed from coming back because you're going to try to extract from them something you're just not going to get.
What is the impetus then for somebody to move off their side? What provides that? Is it another season of Live? Is it Live poaching another golfer or two from the PGA Tour? What provides the impetus for this to move forward?
I believe John Rahm thought he was the impetus for this to come together when he signed with Live. Obviously, that didn't work out quite that way. I think he figured that would be a move that would so much expedite this process that it would be done and dusted by now and be in front of federal regulators, which is also a hang up in all of this, by the way. But that didn't happen. So what players could move that would change that conversation? I don't think that there is any that actually would. If Xander Schauffele left, okay, maybe, I guess. The 2-time major champion this year might draw some interest, but he also doesn't seem to have a massive fan base, or maybe we overestimate his fan base in golf and relative to larger sports. So what's that going to, what pressure is another big player leaving going to apply to the same contingent of players who want the same exact thing regardless of who's on Live and who's coming back? I don't think that changes anything. I think that there is this faction of players that just kind of wants Live to exhaust whatever money the Saudis believe they're going to spend on this and walk away. The ratings for Live on television are atrocious. They're horrible, and they haven't gotten any better. And so I think we've established at this point there isn't much broad interest in Live Golf regardless of who plays. So there's this hope
Could
that
they
maybe
wait
they'll
them
just
out
realize
then?
that can go away.
Could they wait them out?
I think that's the thought, is we'll just wait them out till they get sick of it, and then we can get them on better terms and we get what we want.
Wow.
Because at the end of the day, if the Saudis invest and to live with it, or at least end live as we know it with it, then there's going to be conditions. This isn't just, hey, we give you $1 billion and we all just party together. That's not how this works either. They want some kind of return on their investment, despite blowing billions of dollars on live to basically no return at this point. And I think that the players feel comfortable with Strategic Sports Group, the group that invested $1.5 billion and could invest up to $3 billion in the PGA Tour, thinking maybe we just need that and we don't need the Saudis at all.
I got about 30 seconds here, so this is going to be a tough one, but it sounds like the Ryder Cup teams, U.S. and Europe, are welcome to opening back these live players.
Yeah, for sure. The PGA of America has made it clear, if you qualify on points and you are otherwise eligible, basically meaning you're a PGA of America sanctioned player membership thing, it's an esoteric discussion, you're in. On the DP World Tour side, they control the European team. So long as you're a DP World Tour member and you played 4 DP World Tour events this year, you're cool with them. You can be on the team. You can be picked.
Okay. Ryan Ballengee. Check out his work. He does a great job over at Golf News Net. Check out their Fast channel as well. Congratulations on that, Ryan. You're always welcome here on the show. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
We got more to do, something to consider on this Thursday edition of SportsWrap. Let's take it to segment 5 and something to consider. Sam Yarnell. Look like a bobblehead. Something to consider, Sam Yarnell. Notes from the NFL. And during the time we were putting this show together, the Jets made it official, what had long been rumored, after I just called them a contender to win the division. They have demoted Nathaniel Hackett, which was going to be a move from Robert Saleh, but now comes down from Jeff Ulbrich. We have Todd Downing, who is the passing coordinator for the team. He will be calling the plays against Buffalo on Monday night, and Nathaniel Hackett will still retain the title of offensive coordinator.
I'm just going to put this out there now as a Princess pick 5 days early.
Sure.
And I'm looking as we speak to see if there's a line on it already. I would guess not, because FanDuel's probably scared. They see the Prince of Picks coming from a mile away. We will be betting on Aaron Rodgers to throw a pick. New offensive play caller. Someone's going to get confused on a route. They'll run the wrong way. Rodgers will throw it, expecting them to turn left when they turn right into the arms of a defender. Aaron Rodgers to throw a pick on Monday Night Football. Could be a best bet. Definitely on the card.
Yes. Zigging instead of zagging. There you go. All right. Other notes from the NFL. The Saints have decided to go with Spencer Rattler at quarterback for week 6, with Derek Carr dealing with an oblique injury. Now, this is kind of interesting because at the end of the game against the Chiefs the other night, everybody just assumed it'd be Jake Haener who came in and played the final drive of that game. But according to Dennis Allen, the head coach, Rattler will start in place of Carr, who is week to week. Quote, overall, I think he's doing okay, and yet I think he's disappointed he can't be out there, talking about the Carr injury. He's a guy that hasn't missed a lot of time, doesn't like to miss a lot of time, so I think he's frustrated with that part. By the way, he's missed time in his career. Let's not pretend that Derek Carr hasn't missed time in his career. Rattler's out of South Carolina. Won the starting job over Jake Haener. So we'll see what happens with the Saints, who are a bit of a mess. They've dropped 3 in a row after winning their first 2 to start the season in impressive fashion.
So obviously Spencer Rattler, household name for probably not the right reasons. Everyone remembers the Netflix series and the sour ending with the Netflix series because of what happened with Spencer Rattler at Pinnacle High School that no one really knows about, but in reality, we all kind of know about. Obviously, the incredibly troubled time at Oklahoma. all of the hype surrounding him coming in, and then the colossal letdown that was, including the 12 interception season wasn't until he got to South Carolina because Lincoln Riley left, but then he went to the wrong USC, and the 12 interception season came. It's the guy's been a mess. I mean, kind of a depiction of the Saints and how they've gotten to this point, right? Massive success in the NFL to compared to how good they really are. I will be betting Spencer. The long way of saying another best bet for this weekend, Spencer Rattler to throw an interception.
Aiden O'Connell will start at quarterback for the Raiders against the Steelers on Sunday. Another game that should be a rock fight. 17-14, 14-13, 14-10. Take the under. Antonio Pierce making it known that Aiden O'Connell will get the start. Gardner Minshew goes to the bench. It's rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic at this point, isn't it?
36.5 is the live total at FanDuel. So if you do like that under, get in on it now while you're getting two key numbers. And if you like the over, wait until it gets down to 34.5, which I bet it will get down to.
Really?
And then
you think it's going to move? You think it's going to move? You think it's going to drop a whole 2 points?
By game day, by Saturday, it may be down to 35.5, and then you'll see a bunch of sharp money come in real early on Sunday morning, probably take it down to 34.5. Would be my assumption, but again, I haven't looked at where the money's coming in on this particular game. What I will say about this is the small amount of insight I have into the Raiders and their quarterback controversy. Before the season, I talked to people around the Raiders organization, and it seemed like they were more comfortable with Gardner Minshew because he would make the safer passes, and they really thought they could be a contender and try and sneak in one of those AFC wildcard spots. I wonder if there was kind of an internal discussion and a realization, hey, this may not be our year. Obviously, Devontae wanting out, but we still have a serviceable enough offensive line. Let's see what we can get done with AOC. That's my guess as to the only thing that could have transpired in that locker room, because Gardner hasn't gotten that much worse. He's just looked a little more erratic.
Yeah. And that situation is a mess. No Devontae Adams for whoever is throwing the football there against the Steelers this week. And speaking of the Steelers, what will happen with their quarterback situation is also very much up in the air right now as of Thursday morning, whether it's going to be Justin Fields, whether it's going to be Russell Wilson. And I said this in Contender Pretender. I still think they have a shot to do something in the postseason with that prolific defense, but they've got to get back to Russell Wilson and find out what Russell Wilson could be, because through 5 weeks, we kind of know what Justin Fields is. And you're not look, I wanted to give Justin Fields the benefit of the doubt and see what he would be able to do, with this Steelers team, but it's just not happening. It's just not connecting so far, Sam. And at this point, we've got to find out what Russell Wilson has left in the tank.
Listen, Justin Fields, so this is the one thing that you and I disagree on, because I also agree that the Steelers could be contenders and are a very good football team, but I think that they are a better football team if they give the keys to Justin Fields and let him drive. Get rid of this Russell Wilson narrative. Just trade him. Give him to Miami. I don't care. Justin Fields has already thrown for nearly 1,000 yards, in addition to rushing for almost 200 on the season. Yeah, the one interception, he's protected the football. I like Justin Fields in the Steelers offense.
Gotta find out what Wilson can do. We will soon enough. Odds and ends are next. It is just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Don't forget, if you miss anything from the show, anything at all, Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available. All your favorite podcasting platforms. Google Play, Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Odyssey, Amazon. We're on all of them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. The end. Well, we'll do the odds first. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Odds on the NFL game tonight. We got the 49ers and Seahawks going at it in Seattle. Look, this is a show-me game for both teams. Show me you can just figure out, in the case of the 49ers, show me that you can figure out ways to win games without a large assortment of your players that are missing. And right now, San Francisco has obviously struggled to do that. It is the Niners -3.5 on the road in Seattle. I hear Admiral Akbar somewhere. It's a trap. Give me the Seahawks +3.5 tonight. I know it sounds crazy considering what I just said, but I don't know. You know what? I don't feel good about this line either. 49.5, by the way, feels like a tall number too to me. Feels like an under game to me, Sam. If it sounds like I'm confused and I have no idea what I like, it's because I really don't like anything in this game.
See, I'm going to do exactly what you just did, but the smart way. I have no idea what to do with this game. I have no idea. I look at this game and I think puke. It could go a bazillion different ways. The Niners could win this game 28-3. The Seahawks could win this game 42-39. I really have no idea. This is a total stay away from me. Bet the props, find a cool prop that you like, but you know, Jason, I can't get there because here's the thing. The Niners have been so deflated this season. I don't know how to put it other than that. It's like the another Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs just ruined them. Like it just took it out of that franchise. Obviously, not having the best running back in the league doesn't help, but their morale just doesn't seem to be there. The Seahawks are like so consistently inconsistent in the league every year. It's like, you know, they're gonna go somewhere between 8-9 and 10-7. You probably won't get anything outside of that. If you do, it won't be more than a game. That's the standard deviation. And they lose games you don't expect them to lose, and they win games you don't expect them to win. And Geno Smith plays like a Heisman Trophy winner when they do. So I hate this game.
We've been killing it on primetime games this year. I don't want to ruin that by making some pick here. The only thing I would suggest is the under 49.5. And even that I'm not like in love with, but I feel like under 49.5. It's the only thing I kind of got a feel for. Real quick, WNBA finals beginning tonight. Liberty -6 at home against the Lynx. If you're wondering about to win the series, the number was originally 260. It's now Liberty -275. The only value here is the Lynx at +225. And can I tell you something? Sam, I think the Lynx are actually going to win the series. I watched them against the Sun. If they shoot the way, I'm telling you, if you don't know who Courtney Williams is, you're about to find out. And I think a lot of the country is going to be surprised at just how good that team is. Nafisha Collier, obviously Defensive Player of the Year, runner-up in MVP voting. I think the Lynx are actually going to win this series. I'm rooting for the Liberty to win their first WNBA title, but they're up against it. The Lynx are a lot better than people realize.
So my best bet, just really quick, by the way, in that Niners game, will go Jawan Jennings over 30.5 receiving yards. My best bet in this series, Breanna Stewart to be the series leading scorer. You can get it at +170. And listen, I know Sabrina has looked really good, especially in their last series against Las Vegas. Here's the thing. Stewie is the leader of that team, and she is the main offensive focus. Nafisa Collier is the favorite. I think New York wins these games big enough that Breanna Stewart outscores Collier.
Real quick, the odds we gave you. Now here are the ends. The end for Rafa Nadal, who has announced that the 2024 tennis season will be his last. That is not a surprise for anybody who has followed the litany of injuries he has had. It is a shame we'll never see him play again at Roland Garros. Danny Green, 3-time NBA champion. Danny Green, by the way. Won them with 3 different teams. He is hanging it up. He calls it quits. Last but certainly not least, our hearts go out to everybody impacted by Hurricane Milton in Florida. The end of Tropicana Field. Anybody see what happened to that thing? The dome, the top of it, completely ripped off. And I know everybody's attention, obviously, and rightly so, is on what's going to happen with the people impacted by Hurricane Milton. I don't know where they're going to play baseball next year because there's no way that thing's going to be ready to have baseball played in it in 4 months. I'd be shocked, Sam.
Yeah, obviously a super tough situation. Real quick, run through all of those. Danny Green, one of the coolest basketball players ever. Super fun to play with in video games. The Tropicana Field thing, incredibly sad. Obviously, all of our thoughts go out to all of those people in South Florida and all across Florida that have been impacted by that storm. The videos have just been horrifying.
And Rafa Nadal. Don't forget Rafa Nadal.
One of the GOATs. I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to do it for us. We're out of time. We're out of time. We're out of time. We'll see you back here on Friday. Paige versus the Prince, Tino Patino, and more.